Jim Koretsky,
Here.
Ronaldo Diaz,
Christopher McBoy is alternate.
Joni Brinkman. Here. DeAndre Poole,
Here.
Greg Wise.
Here.
Marcy Woodward. Here. Baxter. Here. Mac Bernard. Glenn Spiritus.
Here.
Fred Pinto,
Here.
Michael Napoleon,
Here.
Christy Fox,
I'm here and Commissioner Peduzzi is on the way.
Joseph Peduzzi, Maria Marino,
Here.
Chelsea Reed.
Here, thank you so much. So does anyone on the board have any issue with Yvette Drucker participating remotely? All right, if we could note that in our attendance, that would be great. And let's move along. If I could ask Mayor Wilson to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Let us pray. Oh, Heavenly Father, we come to you once again with bowed heads and humble hearts. Thanking you as always for your grace and your mercy. Realizing, Father, that over and over again, that through your grace and your mercy, you've been better to us than we've been to ourselves. And with that, we say thank you. Thank you, Father, so much for hearing our daily cries and acting upon our daily needs. Father, may your spirit continue to help us to live our lives in gratitude. Forgive us, Father, for the times we ignored the opportunities to do good towards each other with gratitude. Remind us, Father, to be quick to listen and slow to become offended by the opinions of others. Help us, Father, to set aside whatever may be a stumbling block for us to fully surrender ourselves unto you. And finally, Father, we ask a special blessing for our chairperson. Father, you know her heart. And all of us whom you have assembled here today, realizing that we're no strangers to each other, just perhaps friends we have not yet met. We give you all the praises and the glory. And the people said, amen.
Right.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, sir. Staff, do we have any modifications to our agenda today?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, so I'm seeking a motion to adopt the agenda. Could I get a motion in a second, please?
So move.
All right, so all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. We'll move along to general public comments. Instructions on how to provide public comment are included in our agenda. Do we have any public comments?
No, Madam Chair, and I'm sorry, can you please clarify who made the motion and the second?
That's right. Oh, guys, let's do this because we have this big U shape. We can't always see everybody. So if I could go back and when you make a motion or a second, please state your last name if you don't mind so that we can make sure. Cruz for the motion and the second?
Second.
Yep, that's okay.
Thank
Cruz
you.
and Pinto. Thank you. We'll do that. All right, and then we'll reflect that Joe Peduzzi has joined the meeting. So back to general public comments. Instructions on how to provide public comments are included in the agenda. And do we have any again? Just
No,
in case.
Madam Chair.
All right, lovely. So at this time, let's go ahead. Do we have any board members who have anything they want to share before we? All right, Vice Mayor Marino.
Thank you all. Yesterday at our very long board meeting and workshop, the discussion about transportation and mobility did come up. And I know that our county administrator is going to the city managers meeting at the end of this month. And I would encourage all of you to make sure that your city managers show up at that meeting because apparently the last meeting there wasn't a quorum, so not much could get done. And it would be great if we can all get on the same page when it comes to transportation and mobility. Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to share, the town was very fortunate to have been successful in the current, in the recently approved budget. We had a $2.4 million construction earmark for some Indian Town Road improvement continuations, where the town will be providing some funding. That was put in as an earmark. and it got through the veto process, so we're thrilled when that happens. I wanted to just share that since that's and that project consists of when FDOT was embarking on our Indian Town Road I-95 interchange modification. We asked for some improvements further east that basically consist of taking sections of the road that only had turn lanes and making them into through turn lanes. So effectively, we go from a 6-lane road with turn lanes occasionally to an 8-lane road with the outer lane being just a turn through lane. That provides significant improvement through intersections. So that we have a construction project underway. This grant just enables us to continue east, but just wanted to share that, we hadn't gone that route before, but, we applied and it was fully supported by our legislative representatives and it got through the governor's approval. And just lastly, a few meetings back, I had asked about if FDOT could provide a project scheduling report during the construction phase. And I know that that hasn't happened yet. And I first want to say I appreciate FDOT's reporting. When you get in the construction phase, I can't complain. I don't have detailed reporting, but every month we do get, the scheduling report that takes us through award of contract. But the public sees, and we get asked about when, construction starts, and it seemingly goes on forever. So I do think an executive summary continuation of, the FDOT report that we get through to construction letting would be beneficial to have. I can't believe they don't have it. And I do want to give TPA staff credit because I know they've been asking for that before I ever did, So I just wanted to reinforce, since it appears that no progress had been made, I just wanted to reinforce, I think all of us on the board would benefit from that report. So if you have a project in your area and people are asking you about it, you can go to refer to it. Talking about an executive summary. When's it going to end? There could be much like the report that they've done for decades, on the design process and construction letting, they could continue that. So just want to reinforce staff's ask, knowing that that's something we could use. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Next, we'll have Commissioner Weiss, and then after that, Commissioner Fox.
Thank you. This last Thursday, received a letter, an email from FDOT regarding closure of Okeechobee Boulevard at the FEC Railroad crossing that was going to occur on Saturday for up to 5 days. They were able to complete the work in 4. So 1-day notice to shut down westbound Okeechobee at the FEC. That's not acceptable. It's not like a little side street that you're shutting down. You're shutting down the major thoroughfare into West Palm Beach. Actually, in this case, it was leaving West Palm Beach with 1-day notice. Understanding that FEC, it's their property and they have the ability to close it as they deem, but we really need to work together. I did speak with Steve Braun, our district secretary of FDOT, and he was as well very concerned about the lack of timing that they had to be able to do anything. But something like that, we've got to all work together and make sure that we don't have. I mean, it was an absolute. I don't know what to describe it. It's just trying to put everything in place to get the communication. There was no communication plan that had been devised or put in place to alert the public. The cities, my understanding is there was notice given back in June, but there was no date that was provided when it was going to occur. So the cities also had very little time to react. as well. So I think it just brings to the broader question or issue that, the coordination. We also saw a week ago, 2 weeks ago, when they shut down Forest Hill, westbound Forest Hill Boulevard at 95. And we currently have Sixth Avenue South closed. And so that meant that from Belvedere Road all the way down to Lantana, the only available off-ramp on 95 was 10th Avenue North. I drove by there both during commute hour in the evening. It caused the entire 95 basically to shut down near that area because cars were backed up so far onto 95. People are having to move further and further to the left. And then heading back northbound at about 8, it appeared to me that there was still about a half a mile backup on 95. And my understanding is that in August, we're going to open up 6th Avenue South is going to reopen. But I mean, what we put our residents through because of this is something we really need to work together to improve, so that, look, things have to get done. I understand it. And my understanding as well on the Forest Hill closure was also an FEC closure for work on their tracks. But we can do better. I know we can do better working together and plan these things so that, I mean, they're always going to be inconvenience. They're never going to be great, but we can do better. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And point of privilege, it was great to see you, Commissioner Weiss, up on the news again and again, trying to make sure everyone knew about that. I don't know if everyone got to see that outreach, and I know that was out of necessity, and we appreciate it. So moving on, we've got Commissioner Fox and then Vice Mayor McVoy.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Commissioner Weiss. I was going to mention the same thing. I had quite a few calls over the weekend about the closure on Okeechobee, and I was unaware of it. So I appreciate you also mentioning that. But I see that the executive director will also be mentioning the annual report, but I just wanted to say thank you so much for sharing this with us and for all the work that has gone into putting this together, as well as all the work that we've actually done over the last year to be incorporated into this. But in our last city commission meeting, Commissioner Lambert, she sits on the Discover the Palm Beaches board on our behalf, and she presented all of us with a copy of their annual report. And so it was really nice to be able to hear more about what they're doing. I think all of us in this room probably sit on other boards, and sometimes it's so busy, it's hard to, tell our fellow commissioners all the things that are going on. And so I'm hoping that maybe if there's extra copies, I would love to be able to share these with our board. And if anyone else wants to do the same, I think it's just really nice to be able to keep in mind what's going on in the county when we're all just so busy kind of operating in our own boards and not having the time to share it with everyone. So thank you for all your work, and that's all I have.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Vice Mayor McVoy.
Thank you. And slight correction, it's Commissioner McVoy at this point. There's been a slight change there. Vice Mayor Malega is currently the Vice Mayor. Just a little update on also railroads. We too had work on the crossings. We didn't have quite as much traffic as Okeechobee, so I'm sorry to hear about the lack of announcement. I'm not sure how much we got. I didn't know about it either until I got to a crossing. Would just like to say that we are very active in Lake Worth, trying to work on railroad safety, and as a piece of that, both with Brightline and FEC and with the Tri-Rail. In fact, got an email and will be working with an engineering psychologist. I did not know that such things existed, but they were interested in help from Lake Worth because, as many people know, we have a lot of different languages in Lake Worth, and communication can be more of a challenge. So I'll be working with them to help on that. Greetings from Commissioner Diaz, who is on vacation.
All right. Thank you, sir. Any other comments from the board? All right, we'll move right along to the executive director's report, please.
Sure. This guy's working. All right. Good morning, everyone, and happy new fiscal year. Thank you, Commissioner Fox, for noting our annual report. Staff did an amazing job. I'll do a shout out to Melissa, our Public Relations Director, on creating this annual report. It's a summary of some of the highlights from this past year, efforts from the board, from our committees, from staff, and progress that's been made. So please take a look. We have it in front of you. And it's also available on our website and if anyone wants extra copies as well. So this is something we do at the end of every fiscal year, just a summary of the past year. I also want to mention, I sent out an email, but we are planning a site visit coordinated with the Director of Airports from the county, Laura Beebe, as well as Dave Deck from SFRTA, to go visit the Miami Intermodal Center, which is at the Miami International Airport, to take Tri-Rail down. We did do a site visit last fiscal year to Miami on Tri-Rail and then Metro Rail to downtown. However, we didn't have enough time to really learn about the Intermodal Center, so we want to go and explore and learn about how that came to be, which was a partnership between the county, FDOT, the airport, for funding that Intermodal Center. So I want to invite the board members, anyone who can attend, to join us and just save the date. You can RSVP at that website. And I also want to note we're going to be planning more site visits in this coming year, so stay tuned. We are going to be the host of the 2025 Safe Street Summit. This is an event this will be the 12th annual Safe Street Summit. The last times we've hosted was 2021 and 2018. It's going to take place here in West Palm Beach at the Hilton West Palm Beach, February 6th. That Thursday will be some mobile tours. And then on the 7th, Friday, will be the summit at the Hilton. We're really excited about that and hope you can all attend. So please save the date for now. And just also want to point out that many of you have adopted Complete Streets policies in your local municipalities. We have updated the model Complete Streets policy, so we do have a template if you do not have a standalone policy that you can use with national best practices on our website. We've also updated our walk bike safety audit process. So if anyone would like to conduct a walk bike safety audit with staff, please visit our website and let us know. And we are a bicycle-friendly business, but we have to renew that designation. We're silver, and we're asking, as part of that renewal, we're asking everyone to take a survey and let us know your thoughts about how bicycle-friendly we are. I noticed Commissioner McVoy rode his bike today. I saw him storing it in the back, so thank you for taking active transportation, but just wanted to note that. And our Visions 2050 LRTP is still underway, our long-range transportation plan. Projects that we've received are available on our website for review and comment, as well as the regional transportation plan that's also updated every 5 years is underway as well. That's an effort through CEFTEC, which is the 3 MPOs across the 3 counties. We're actually hosting a CEFTEC meeting here at our office tomorrow morning at 9:30 as well. And then the state's already looking out to 2055. So they've started their Florida transportation plan update, and that more information on how to get involved and provide input as a state as a whole is available online. And that concludes. Thank you.
Excellent. Any comments or questions regarding the Executive Director report? No? All right, let's move along to the consent agenda. Do we have anyone on the board wanting to pull anything off of consent today? Oh, let's get it.
Vice Mayor Marino moves for consent agenda.
All right, so we have a motion by Vice Mayor Marino. May I have a second, please?
Second.
Second from Pinto. If you could say your name, that'd be awesome. We can't
sorry.
see you. I know we're trying to do a better job with that. All right, so all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thanks so much. We'll move right into our action items. Today we have the fiscal year 2025 strategic plan. If we could invite Brian Rooster up. He is our Deputy Director of Multimodal to present on this item.
Morning, Chair. Morning, Committee. How are we doing today? Good. Happy new fiscal year. I'm obligated to say that whenever we cover a new strategic plan. Brian Rooster, Deputy Director of Multimodal, proud to present the 2025 strategic plan as well as the 2024 progress report. As you all have seen in the agenda packet, this has already been presented to the TPA advisory committees as well as the TPA executive committee. Our strategic plan is our above and beyond effort that we want to strive for, which goes beyond our unified planning work program. So while we do have our grant obligations that we are going to be meeting this year, the strategic plan outlines all of the items that we strive to achieve as staff with feedback from our governing board. So we're going to start with a look back at the 2024 strategic plan progress report. Much of this information is included in your annual report, so please do take that home. That provides a little bit more detail than what you're going to receive in the presentation today about the work that we've accomplished in the past fiscal year. So for goal number 1, engaging the public, and for many of these goals, we have met and exceeded our targets. So we're really proud of that in the grand scheme of our outcomes. When we talk about having public comments, for example, on our surveys, on our web map, we strived for 500 this year, which was an increase of the previous fiscal year. We hit that mark and we went over by about 117 comments. So we're really proud of those metrics. We have additionally presented 29 presentations to partner agencies and groups, and we had a goal of 20. So we're continuing to make our presence known. And I think that those 2 goals are really reflective of our social media engagement. We had a goal of reaching 125,000 users. We met that goal by 330,000. So we are very proud of our engagement team. They're doing a wonderful job putting our mission and vision and our brand out there and familiarizing Palm Beach County residents and visitors with what we are working here at the TPA. For planning the system, this consists of our long and short range planning goals. We have worked county-wide on creating a mobility vision plan, which complements our 561 network. What we have looked at is all of the remaining on-road corridors and identified the premium transit routes, what service that would be and what they could look like. We will be presenting that information to our municipal and county partners soon. Those projects have already been included into the long-range transportation plan. If you would like to learn more about them, they are candidate projects, as Valerie mentioned in her executive director's report. We have also created the process for selecting and conducting pedestrian bicycle safety field reviews and are working towards the creation of a speed management plan. And what that will do is it looks at our highest crash corridors in Palm Beach County in terms of injuries severity, so fatalities or people who are going and getting either trauma-hawked or evacuated to a hospital, looking at where speeds are highest on those areas and coming up with countermeasures that we can implement with our partners. For the prioritization of funding, we have revised our funding programs, as you all know from the work that we completed in October when we launched our funding program in October of the prior year. Supporting and tracking grant applications, we're very proud that we've been more successful, especially in the previous fiscal year, at drawing down more federal funds. And the TPA has been a partner in supporting 14 applications for discretionary grants. Our goal was 5. We are really proud of that, and we hope that as the grant cycles continue to move forward, that we will continue to support our partners, as well as pursuing discretionary grants for Sun Trail prioritization in Boca Raton and Jupiter. We're very hopeful that those projects in those 2 municipalities will get funded. We should know more about that in October. For the implementation of projects, we've also completed 3 projects with multimodal improvements, or excuse me, we haven't completed, but we are working towards including 3 resurfacing projects that will have multimodal elements included in them. So those have been incorporated into the scopes. And of course, we are working with our municipalities to provide grant submittal support to our programs and to other funding programs throughout the state. In the last slide, looking at back to 2024, we are working towards assisting our municipalities with studies. We have conducted 9 events of interest when our goal was 4. So we are continuing through our public involvement efforts and through our work with our governing board to ensure that we are making these metrics and getting you all out into the community. Created a transportation demand management plan and conducted site visits to learn from our partner agencies. This is where we go out, we meet with the airport, we meet with port, and we try to engage with those agencies so that we better understand their operations and can fund the projects that they need. Lastly, for goal 6, this goal has to deal more with how we administer ourselves as an agency, conducting trainings for our staff, implementing new financial systems, streamlining our processes. We have met all of these goals, implemented our new accounting system, ensure that we have the agency benefits and services agreement put in place. This really solidified and streamlined a lot of things that we were working on in the previous fiscal year. We're really proud of our finance team for accomplishing 5 goals. Typically in our strategic plan, we shoot for 3 because that is a more reasonable nature. As I said before, this is above and beyond. So achieving 5 different goals in one strategic plan goal is really outstanding. Now, to get to the actions that we would like to complete this year. In the slides, you will see that the changes are stricken through and underlined where you expect to see changes. And on the slides, there are also red bounding boxes around the changes that you will see. So hopefully that highlights it and moves it in a clear manner for you to consume. We are increasing our social media engagement goal. As I said before, we reached about 330,000. We are stretching that goal to 350,000 users reached. And with that, we would also like to increase the consumption of our videos. A lot of our content is fresh. It's up to date with our partners. And so we would like to increase the engagement with our content, not necessarily produce new content this year, as we believe that we are doing a great job already. And maintaining the goal of presenting the TPA initiatives to partner agencies and groups. Plan the System has a fairly substantial amount of updates. We are working towards 3 different actions this year. First and foremost is to create a transit-oriented communities policy recommendations. What that looks like is we have our 561 network. We have our premium transit system identified in the long-range transportation plan, and we need to start talking about how those corridors are going to look and feel from a zoning and land use perspective. And so this policy will come up with recommendations that will reflect the 561 network and support our communities as they look towards how they can align with what the transportation plan for the long range is going to have as an outcome. For Plan the System 2B, conduct a micromobility rail access study. So our TPA Governing Board Executive Committee provided a recommendation to us for 2B as well. We originally proposed as staff to have a bicycle rail access study to match what Miami-Dade County and the TPO has been working towards with bicycle access to the tri-rail stations. Our executive committee provided the recommendation to up that to include micromobility as well. So thinking about how e-bikes, e-scooters, one-wheels, and e-skateboards also access the system. For those of you who might not be aware, we have the most scooters and the most bicycle accessing tri-rail here in Palm Beach County between Lake Worth and Boca Raton stations. So we are very proud of that, but we want to make sure that people have access and are able to use the system as best they can and access the region. We are also going to conduct a Vision Zero update to our action plan to align with our federal funding programs so that we are ensuring the greatest access to federal dollars in the future for our area. For the prioritization of funding, we'd like to streamline and update our interactive status dashboard to be a little bit easier to consume. We do have a lot of tools where you can find information about our projects, but one consolidated projects dashboard will really help to move that effort forward. And then also revise the list of priority project structure based on the recommendations that we have from DOT. If you look at our LOPP, we have a few different lists, and providing a more streamlined list to DOT will help them get a better sense of what we are trying to prioritize and fund as an agency. For goal 4, we have heard from numerous partners that a operations and maintenance program, typically through resurfacing, isn't always the best, especially with how budgetary constraints have gone, that complete streets projects may not always be as easily identifiable. So we've broadened this to also include different types of projects and just made the resurfacing category into upcoming projects. We might be able to incorporate complete streets improvements on utility projects or other types of projects that we envision moving forward, but we still have the goal of completing them within projects and existing work programs, whether they be through utilities, landscaping, or otherwise. For goal number 5, we have largely kept this goal the same, with the exception that we've completed our TDM policy and we are going to be hosting our Regional Safe Streets Summit. So we will continue to assist our local municipalities with local transportation studies and plans. We're going to host our Safe Streets Summit rather than focusing on conducting topics of interest. We might still have a few here and there depending on the local need, but hosting the regional summit will take a lot of attention from the staff. We have had our kickoff meeting with our regional partners, and we're looking forward to hosting that in February 6th and 7th. We are still going to be conducting mobile tours, visiting our partners, moving throughout Palm Beach County and figuring out how they access and operate the system, as well as conducting site visits. Lastly, we will continue to provide trainings and streamline our processes. For this, we have included a new board and advisory committee training for all of our bodies that we receive direction and advice from, as well as continuing to provide a strategic plan and annual report. So thank you all for your time. I'd like to seek a motion to approve the fiscal year 25 strategic plan.
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Good presentation. A lot of work ahead of you. When you talk about increasing your video capabilities, does that include spots on local network news programs where they talk about what's going on in the community?
It specifically does not. However, we are actively out in front of the media whenever we get the opportunity to. I think we try very
okay.
hard to make sure that we provide them with our content too. But generally speaking, we would be tracking our views on either YouTube, our website, or other social media.
All right, if that's something you're interested in doing, let's talk offline, because I can tell you who you need to talk to at the radio, at the TV stations.
Certainly. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll move on to Mayor Koretsky.
2 items. Number one, first of all, before I talk to the first one, kudos to staff. Great, achievements in prior year. I want to make sure I'm emphasizing that before I'm misunderstood as a criticism. On the social media engagement, is that users or user events? And the reason we all get into these kind of metrics. It's extraordinary if there was 336 different people, which would be implied by the language. I don't know what the capabilities of social media to recognize that, but if, for example, somebody's going on, every week, it'd be interested if we could know that, right? Because I'm just concerned about this number going up and being beyond our population. Let's just say what it is, and this is more for going forth. We set the goal for next year. We should be understanding what is the goal. But again, extraordinary results. It's not a criticism. It's just going forth. Just think about what's going to happen here. I think it's probably user events that may be all we have capability, or some other word if you choose, but just for the going forth one, to clarify that. And then secondly, in light of what the commissioner commented about earlier about roadway closures, it certainly seems like we ought to have an item which we have to do and is achievable, is to improve collaborations about roadway closures and mitigation planning. And I know we all have faced FEC just closing it down. They tell us we don't know the date. But it does seem like we should be able to have success with them understanding the need that we have to plan around those kind of events. So it would go beyond that. Even lesser used, crossings have significant impact. So I would like to see, probably not time here in the meeting to craft that, but I'd like to see that to be a priority, right? So at the end of the year, we say, wow, we've really improved how closures are done. And as a result, we've really mitigated, a lot of, and I know all of us have to participate. It's not just TPA, but TPA is kind of like our point. So just an ask.
So for the first item, I will check with our public relations director about the user engagement, what that looks like, and I'll follow up with you. I do want to note that we do share across the region our effort and our mission. So while we might have a certain population threshold that you would think is a logical reach for us as an agency, there probably is a much larger audience that we're also reaching because partners in Broward, Miami-Dade, even Martin County occasionally shares our information. So we do have a good reach. I'll check with our user engagement and make sure if it's, unique instances, unique users versus, if it's actual individual persons engaged. We'll follow up on that. And I was curious as the commissioner commentary was ongoing about the railroad closures, why there were so many instances of construction at one point in time. And I'm curious about that. I think we'll follow up with our partners at DOT and see what their process for that was to try to get a little bit better of a picture of the story. Maybe there was a contractor that was hired to perform all of the work in the corridor at one point in time, and it just so happened to work out that they did it in this time frame. Thankfully, it was, not during peak season, right? Not during one of the busiest weekends, but nevertheless still has substantial impacts. So we'll follow up with our partners, ask about that in our weekly coordination as well, to see if we can get a little more information for you. So we'll certainly track that and think about that as we continue to move forward and share information.
All right, thank you, sir. We'll move on to Commissioner Weiss.
One is going through the website. Yeah. Going through the website, on the scorecard or report card, that hasn't been updated, it looks like in a couple of years. So maybe goal is to keep the website up to date. And then you all have access to lots of data. And we now have some new tools, generative artificial intelligence that can be utilized. Is there any goals in trying to implement any new technologies?
Not specifically in the strategic plan, but we are actively working to meet with those companies. Actually, my counterpart, Andrew, and I are meeting with an entity that's based out of Palm Beach County today. So we are working towards that to try to figure out how we better fit it into the platform. But it is still, because of how MPOs work, the nature of the integration of new technologies and new data platforms is still being considered, and best practices are still being worked on. I think we're not really quite there yet with how we can streamline this across an industry, but we are tracking that. I don't know if we're necessarily ready to put it as an action item in our strategic plan, but it is something that we are thinking about, and it is something that we are working towards trying to figure out how we can integrate this and streamline our data management processes, our prioritization processes, and even, simplifying our task.
I would direct you to the NACO website. They released a report giving guidance on how to implement artificial intelligence into government, quasi-governmental agencies. So I'm sure it would be helpful to you all. But I think the opportunity, especially, in looking at grant development and so many of the other things that go on, that this agency would benefit by having access to tools to help make you all more efficient and provide a better, quite frankly, an easier, I shouldn't say better, but an easier ability to analyze and look at data and trends and pull that information together, both for internal use and as well as external.
Thank you.
Thanks so much, Commissioner Weiss. Is that it? All set? Can't see you. All done? Okay, thank you. All right, so we'll move on to Commissioner Fox and then Vice Mayor Marino.
Thank you so much. It's exciting to see you all exceeding all of your goals and striving for more next year. I just wanted to touch upon the social media engagement. I think one of the things that happens on social media is that the algorithms are, what they are. And so sometimes you don't actually see every post. So I know that some of the nonprofit boards I'm on, they might send us a toolkit or emails when there's an important video or a post or something, just to make sure that we see it and ask us to share and things like that. I don't want to put more work on anybody, but I think some of those things might, go a long way towards your next goals. If everyone in this room shared one post, that might be, 100,000 people that see it with all these people combined. So it's just a suggestion, but thank you for sharing all that you're doing and looking forward to the next year.
Thank you. That's a great note. Appreciate that.
There we go. On your goal number 5, action A, assist local governments with transportation and mobility studies and plans. This is not a comment to you. This is actually a comment to the rest of the board. At our workshop yesterday, and when we talked about impact fees, the county is probably going to transition from impact fees to multimodal fees. They're more flexible than impact fees or mobility fees. But what also springboarded from that and a previous discussion is that the county really is interested in knowing from the cities what their needs are when it comes to mobility and multi-purpose, multi-use items. And I would like the representatives here from both small and large cities to really take a look at their capital improvement budgets and see what's in those budgets that might be covered under mobility, so it can actually come out if in fact we do something in the future having to do with transportation. And I will leave it at that.
All right, any other cards? So we'll move along. I'm seeking a motion to approve fiscal year 25 strategic plan. If you could state your name when you make your motion. Thank you. All right, we've got Commissioner Baxter for the motion. Thank you. And second by Marino. All in favor? Any opposed? Great work, team.
Thank you,
Motion
Chair and
passes
Board.
unanimously. Thank you. We're going to move along to, apologies, our second action item, which is our fiscal year 26 to 30 list of priority projects, or the LOP. Good morning. You got your mic okay? I know it's a little microphony in here. Are you good?
I'm good, thank you.
Okay.
Good morning, everyone. I actually don't prefer the term LOP. Some places use it. I've always just said LOPP, but we can use LOP if you'd like. So this is the list of priority projects, the LOP. This, as Brian mentioned, it's a new fiscal year. Happy fiscal year, state fiscal year. Started July 1st, so we're operating under a new fiscal year there in our Transportation Improvement Program, which was adopted last meeting by you all. So we're currently in fiscal year 25. We're already making our way to the next tip. So that would be 26 to 2030. And with that, we, as a board, adopt a list of priorities for federal and state funding that we oversee over the next 5 years. And so this is that first part of getting all the way towards the Transportation Improvement Program. And so this process really starts well over a year in advance. So we had a product development and call for projects back in winter of 2023, heading into spring of 2024. And with that, we have our competitive application programs, such as Transportation Alternatives, where we receive submittals, we vet those. We also bring in other projects from the Long Range Transportation Plan, and those are all reviewed for feasibility. There's a ranking assigned to those, and those are incorporated into the plan if they're new projects. And so today you're seeing that list, and it's broken down just for TPA priorities of our major projects, our local initiatives program, transportation alternatives, and then the shared use network SunTrail program that the state oversees for competitive funds. Once this list is adopted, it then goes to FDOT, and they start working on their draft tentative work program, which is for the entire state. So they're looking at the current costs, they're updating their cost estimates, they're getting the new revenue projections in, and then they're balancing the current program of projects in there, mostly in the first 4 years. And a lot of the new products come in those outer years if there's any additional funding available. So when you see priorities that have not been funded yet, typically larger scale products, those phases will come in the outer new 5th year, which would be 2030. This year, it's going to be in December 2024 when FDOT presents the draft tentative work program to you all. And so that's typically when the secretary would come. So Secretary Braun will come to that meeting most likely in December. It also aligns well with the adoption of our LRTP. So it should be a pretty exciting December meeting heading into the end of the year. Once that is provided, our our changes for that document. It goes back to FDOT, and then they make their draft work program, and we build a tip off of that draft work program. And so we'll be operating under this new document come June 2025. And so each project in the work program could have a series of different phases going on. Obviously, they can take multiple years. Some of the larger scale products might have started out of a planning phase, then we get programming, and then it might go into something like a product development environmental study, and then finally design, right-of-way, utilities, construction. So larger scale products that take multiple years. There's also some of those smaller scale products that'll only have potentially the design phase. Maybe there's no right-of-way that's required, and then it'll go right into construction. So that could really just be like a 3-year window. But we showed this life cycle of product just to provide an understanding of all these products in the work program are really working on a production schedule, and they're moving forward year to year and trying to maintain stability there, move projects and accelerate them when we can, when there's funding available, but trying to keep it stable as we move through the work program. And so I'm just going to comment on a few highlights from the list of priority projects, the LOP. And the document has a lot more products in there, probably about 100 or so. I'm just going to provide highlights on ones that we feel have been brought up recently, and then have updates. So we're only talking about the TPA priority products today that make up part of the TIP. And again, that's the major products, local initiatives, transportation alternatives, and SunTrail. And for the main programs that we have prioritization over, that we've created, we have the major products and state roads. These come out of our long-range transportation plan. When they're on state roads, they typically use state funding. So those state gas taxes, known as district dedicated revenue. That's mostly what we had to work with there. And then for local initiatives, that mainly comes from federal funds that we have available to us, formula funds based on population. And that is known as surface transportation block grant funds. And then that's a competitive process we have, up to $5 million per project. And then the next one is transportation alternatives, also formula funding that we have, and those goes more towards non-motorized transportation projects. So those are also those federal funds called transportation alternatives funds. And a few highlights for you. I have 3 for the major products here. The first one is Tri-Rail extension on the FEC corridor. So this one has money in there in a current year for more feasibility study work. And that's occurring in both Broward and Palm Beach. TPA has put money towards this. FDOT has some contracts out soon to implement these studies. And what it's really looking at is, obviously, there's still operations and maintenance of a local commitment required for this corridor for future service. But this is getting more into station refinement on the FEC corridor, looking at where those would occur, and then refining cost estimates for operations and maintenance and capital. And so our request here is just ensure that we're coordinating well with FDOT and according with us and SFRTA. They're actually going to come present to the committees and board pretty soon, I believe in September. Next is a product that we discussed last meeting, and this is the US 27 connector from US 27 to State Road 715. And so this was the 4 alignments that were presented to provide a potential truck bypass for City of Belglade and South Bay. FDOT's still working towards this study to complete it. There should be another round of stakeholder outreach. So if they haven't reached out soon, they should be. But once they finish up that feasibility study, they're really going to have to get down to a few alignments, right? So they'll probably have 1 or 2 alignments that would move forward. And with that, they would go in the next phase of the product development environmental phase. And so that's what the request is in here today, based on the discussion we had last meeting and trying to get this product moving forward. Next phase would be that PD&E, and that is what's looking to be funded in our request. Next one is our last one for major products. It's Indiantown Road at Central Boulevard. And this also has a PD&E phase that's already programmed within the work program in the TIP, and that is in fiscal year 2028. The request here is to accelerate that as well, since it is just a PD&E phase. FDOT has provided informally that they could potentially get it to fiscal year 27, so we'll see how it plays out in the work program. But that is a request to accelerate this PD&E phase. And this PD&E phase would go off of a more recent study for congestion, a congestion study on this corridor. And in that feasibility study, it had a displaced left turn as one of the concepts. So it'd be assessing that displaced left turn. That's what you'll be seeing at Beeline in Northlake. And then other concepts when it comes to improving congestion and safety. And then after the major projects, there are the local initiatives projects. There's still about $20 million of requests in that to be funded. So there's no change to that list, except for one that we moved to TA. But that is the same list we'll be presenting for prioritization of moving forward. Since there's no change to those, I didn't put those into a slide, but they are in that packet today. And then the last one I wanted to mention is transportation alternatives. This is that funding source, federal funds that we have towards non-motorized transportation projects. We had 3 submittals that we prioritized new projects this year. That's 24-1 through 24-3. They all and deal with adding bicycle lanes. The max for this program is $1.5 million per project, and they're delivered by local agencies. The one new product to this one that's coming from the local initiatives program, since there's some funding available, is Palm Beach Lakes Boulevard. This is a transit access improvement by Palm Tran. And so with shifting that one over, the total request is around $5 million, and that's about what we get annually for this program. That's all I have for you. Again, there's probably 100 products in the LLPP. Only commented on a few of the highlighted ones, but I can take any questions on any product in there.
Thank you, Andrew. Mayor Koretsky, you have your card up?
I'm most grateful for TPA staff's ongoing efforts to help on the priority project on Indiantown Road and Central. And so this isn't a feedback on that assistance, but the priority project process is broken, doesn't work. I'm going to say this because what's most frustrating is that in 2021, the TPA listed an intersection improvement, which backed up and supported by the county engineer. So the county and the town agreed this is a priority project to proceed. Then also in a positive way, experts, transportation experts with the county, the town, and FDOT concluded that, gee, before proceeding with the design, we ought to make sure that there might not be this better solution to improve the intersection. Then it goes into this holding mode to have a study done. So we expect, when this was 21, that by 5 years, 26, maybe the project would be done. So right now you're saying, and I appreciate, I know you're pushing, I'm pushing, but so the study is going to move maybe to 27. And then in the meantime, by the time 27 gets here and we get a study on what's going to be done, now the next 5 years of construction funding is already filled in. And so it isn't until 2032 that funding may start to happen. I mean, this is the way I see it. That funding is going to start to happen for this road improvement project that was a priority in 21. So nothing more we can do about it. No change to be made today on what's before us. But I'm just going to continue to express frustration with the process. It's broke. We identified a priority project supported by all, and that it takes more than a decade to get it done. I'm going to continue to do my best to nudge that along, because it isn't for just Jupiter. Any other jurisdiction finding themselves in the same process, that doesn't work. If the study is needed, it ought to be expedited. Otherwise, you're putting off when it can fall into construction, design and construction funding. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I know you're pushing hard.
Thank you, Mayor Koretsky. Any other cards? Any other comments? We don't have any public comment that I've seen yet. All right. Oh, I apologize. All right. Commissioner McVoy.
Thank you. Very appreciative of the work, very appreciative of the focus, some of the focus on alternative transportation. I'm very pleased to hear that in a number of the things here. I will be in solidarity with West Palm Beach voting against it, not because I object to the overall, but because of the concern about State Road 7 and Grassy Waters.
All right, thank you, sir. I don't see any other cards. We don't have any public comment.
No, Madam.
So, I'm sorry?
Sure.
Andrew, do you have something else you want to
Sure, I can
share?
just add a little bit.
Please.
Just for Mayor Koretsky too, and it's a good example of the product there. We understand what the concerns there and frustrations when it comes to some of these phases. And we are trying to figure out better ways as a state too, all the MPOs, implement some better practice with this. You know, what you're saying there, we've had discussions as staff where maybe we need to find better opportunities to hold funds earlier on for like 30% design, and then try to recreate this list of priority products in a way that understanding there are our priorities, but then flagging these ones that have advanced production potential. FDOT has that in their capability to flag products that they have product managers who are ahead of schedule and they could take funds earlier if funds become available. And so hopefully in the future, we're looking towards this list to really make it more of an acceleration pipeline when things do come up. And I think part of that is getting some more planning done earlier on with 30% design or whatever it is. So when we can go for more funds and they're available, we do it more quickly. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, thank you, Andrew. All right, with that, no public comment, no further cards are up. Let's go to a motion and a second. Kindly state your name when you make your motion and your second. Oh, here you go.
Marino, I'll make a motion to accept the list of priority projects.
Pinto, second.
Excellent. All right, so it sounds like we're going to need a roll call vote for this one. Thank you, Andrew.
Steve Wilson,
Aye.
Yvette Drucker,
Aye.
Andy Thompson,
Yes.
Angela Cruz. Yes. Rob Long,
Yes.
Chuck Shaw,
Yes.
Jim Koretsky,
Yes.
Christopher McVoy, Joni Brinkman,
Yes.
DeAndre Poole,
Yes.
Greg Wise,
No.
thank you. Marcy Woodward. Yes. Sarah Baxter, Mac Bernard,
Yes.
Glenn Spiritus, Fred Pinto,
Yes.
Michael Napoleon,
Yes.
Christy Fox, Joseph Paduzzi,
No, due to the inclusion of the State Road 7 extension project.
Maria Marino,
Yes.
Chelsea Reed.
Yes, I have 15-4.
Correct.
All
yes.
right, good. So motion passes 15-4. Thank you so much. All right, let's move along. We have a few information items today. The first right now we'll discuss is the roadway functional classification update. We have FDOT here to join us, and I'm going to invite Raj Shanmugan. I apologize if I mispronounced your last name. Our FDOT District 4 Systems Analytics and Group Supervisor.
Well, good morning, Madam Chair. You pronounce it perfectly, so that's good. Thank you.
I had a little help, so thank you.
I heard. And good morning to the TPA governing board members. My name is Raj Shanmugam. I'm with Florida Department of Transportation Planning Office. What I'm going to be spending next 5 to 10 minutes is introducing to you the process that we are going through designating the functional classification. This has been a major expected task that by a lot of the municipalities as well as the counties and the TPA. So this has been long waited coming on. So hopefully we can get this through smoothly so that we can get it to the FHWA and get them approved on it. So let me set the scene. If you all remember, beginning of this year, I came in front of this board, presented the urban boundary designation. Again, a long process that we went through. We had adjusted the urban boundary designation within the Palm Beach County based on the census data that were published in 2020. Although it takes some time for them to provide us with the information, then we go through our process. So it was in early 2024, we came in front of you all and presented the urban boundary. We went through several iterations and we got it all approved. It's ready to go. Now we come to the second step, which is functional classification designation. So what does functional classification mean? As the word says, we are designating the roadway according to the function of that roadway. What's the benefits of functionally classifying? Well, the roadways that are functionally classified get to have federal funds. And also when there are emergencies, they also get to have the emergency funds to be used on those roadways for clearance and whatnot. So there's a lot of things made about, roadways being within the functional classification. But if you really look at it, all roads except local streets and streets that are designated as local rural minor collectors are the ones do not qualify for federal funds. All other roads qualify for the federal funds. Andrew spoke about the block grants. That's one of the major federal funds that available for anything besides the state funds to be used on the local, on the functionally classified roadways. So that's one of the reasons that we go through this exercise to make sure that we are designating. We also have the highway relief, as I mentioned before, that's going to be used for the functionally designated roadways. So what are the steps that we go through? FDOT does the initial review of the roadways. Now, keep in mind, this is not something that we are inventing from inception. We already have all the roadways classified by functional classification. What we are doing is we are re-examining those roadways, trying to make sure they're still within that guidelines that have been provided by the Federal Highway Administration for us to continue to keep that functional classification or drop it from the functional classification. One of the major benefits going through these steps is the local streets. There are local streets now become eligible to be defined as functionally classified. Therefore, they will be able to get the federal funds to be used on those local roadways. The next step, we are not doing this in vacuum. We want to make sure that our local partners are engaged in this, and we will be inviting them to give their feedback. In effect, we have already started sending out the notices with roadways within their jurisdiction and what they've been classified before versus what is going to be classified. That is not the final at all. We have a workshop program for next week, Monday, July 22nd at FDOT. We have invited every municipality within Palm Beach and Broward County to attend. It's a workshop, so individual agencies, municipalities can ask specific questions with the staff that's present there and give their feedback on what do they agree or if they do not agree with it. We have been getting responses from the emails that we have sent out to the different municipalities, pretty good responses that we have been getting. So we are reviewing them right now and looking into it again and saying, okay, do we need to change the designation that we already have? After doing that, we will be bringing it back to the TPA board. And before that, of course, TAC will be taking a look at it. Once they agree to it, we'll bring it to the TPA. Then it will be sent out to FHWA for their approval. So this is planning 101. What is functional classification of roadways? The street that we live on, it's the most accessible roadway. That's the local street. Turnpike, I-95, 595, I-75, these are all principal arterials. They are primarily built for mobility. Then in between, you have a slew of roadways that provide many other functions, such as access to hospitals, municipal facilities, post offices, schools, malls, as well as some in between, like business buildings. So that we need to figure out where this roadway fits in so that we can designate the appropriate functional classification for that roadway. This is what I call the fuzzy table. Why it's a fuzzy table? As much as it says principal arterial should have few access, it doesn't say exactly what is few means. Local roads can have many access, but it doesn't say what is the cutoff when it comes to many. So this is kind of subjective. So we do our best. We use our engineering and planning knowledge that we have to designate the roadways according to this fuzzy table that we have. Then again, there are some guidelines. We do have federal guidelines as well as literature that we have, which guide us to say where these roadways should be fit in based on this subjective guidance that we have. So there are 3 steps that we go through in order to do the functional classification. The first step, as I mentioned in the beginning, is because of urban boundary designation changes, right? If you recall before, when we came in front of you, we showed you the urban boundary. It's either shrunk or expanded. Some places it's expanded, some places it's shrunk. There wasn't much of a change in Palm Beach County. Some northern counties, we did have more changes. So any roadway that fell within the new urban boundary became as the connotation of urban. So if it was a rural arterial, now it becomes an urban arterial. If it was a rural collector, now it becomes an urban collector. Similarly, anything that left out went from an urban arterial to a rural arterial, so on and so forth. So that is the first step that we went through. Adjusting the designation just to change the connotation of if it's urban or rural. There were not many miles have changed. We don't want to present any of the findings that we have. We want to wait till we show it to our local municipalities before we bring it back again. The second step is determining the functional classification. Now, remember I said the last time we did the functional classification was in 2014. That's 10 years ago. That was following the 2010 census data. A lot of things have changed. I gotten older 10 years in those days. So we need to make sure we go back and take a look at those things and making sure that it's still the same or should we be changing it? So that's the next step. And there are really good guidelines that have been given by the federal government, the FHWA, as well as there's literature that we can use to designate those roadways. The third one is the most important one, the local roads. There are local roads now we're going to become federal functionally classified. So that's where you're going to see we're going to be getting a lot of feedback from our local municipal partners so that we can make the appropriate adjustments and make sure our partners are satisfied as well as we are meeting the FHWA and the FHWA guidelines. So this exhibit shows you if a roadway to be classified as a principal arterial, yet there are 7 purposes that are identified. It has to fall in at least 3 of those. 2 plus is 3 or more purposes in order for it to be called a principal arterial. And as you can see, the one in blue, that's I-95. Obviously, that's a principal arterial. That's not going to change. The one in brown, that's the Southern Boulevard. This is an example I'm showing, not the entire county. Southern Boulevard, which is a principal arterial that traverses the entire county. Then you have the Turnpike, which is another principal arterial, but it doesn't fall in the category of the interstate. Therefore, it's a different category. It doesn't mean just meeting these 2 criteria alone going to qualify it to be a principal arterial. There are many other criteria such as traffic volumes, the area it traverses, the land uses, future land uses, all of these things get into the picture. Similarly, the minor arterial, if you were to meet only one of these 7 criteria, it was identified as a minor arterial. And going down the list for major collector roadways, anything that's 2 or more than 1, criteria that are listed there, 1, 2, and 3, that would fall in the major collector category. And minor collector category will be meeting 1. Then, of course, the rest are local roadways. So this is the third step, which is the critical step or important step when it comes to our local partners, is to identify local roads. Should they be elevated to a collector? Or the other way around, if there's anything that was called as a collector before, do they still maintain that status based on the characteristics and the service that they're providing? And this is a timetable that we have, and I'm just going to quickly go through this timetable. We were asked to complete this by December 2024. That was our initial direction that we received. They changed the goalpost on us. They said, no, we want to have it by August. We looked around and we said, no, there's no way we're going to meet the August deadline because some of the MPO, TPO, TPAs do not meet during the summertime. You know, there's the vacation time. So we have bought in from them saying that, you know, we'll get it to you by October. So October is our date that we are looking at right now. And by April of 2025, we should have everything completed, everything approved by the Federal Highway Administration. But we need to complete our task that's in front of us by October of this year. So what are the pending activities that we have? So we do have 3 districts adjoining the District 4. To the north, we have District 5. To the west, we have District 1. And to the south, we have District 6. So we need to make sure that any classification or functional classification that we are providing at those boundaries consistent with the way those districts looked at, which is not going to be a major task. You know, we have done this before. It's going to go smoothly, and we are confident we can get that done easily. Coordination with the counties and municipalities, which is the most important part of this task. We have a workshop next Monday. Please make sure that you send your representatives with their message and with their clipboard to make sure that your likings are being taken care of, or at least looked at and addressed. And we will follow up, whatever requests that are going to come in at that workshop, we will follow up and make sure that we come to an agreeable solution at the end. Then, of course, it's going to go to FHWA, a draft, going to be sent to FHWA for their review. What I don't want to happen is when we send that draft to FHWA, it's coming back to us saying, no, we need to change it. Well, guess what? We need to go back again and regurgitate the whole thing again. We don't want to do it. We want to get it right the first time. And fortunately, we have our consultant partners who are helping us. Tina McKinney was a former FDOT Central Office employee. So she pretty much knows what's they're looking for from FHWA. So we are very fortunate to have her as a consultant now, assisting us with this process. So once we get that through, we will be submitting it for the TPA for your signature. Of course, it will go to the TAC first, for them to review it. Then it'll come to you for your signature. From there, it will go to FHWA for their signatures, and we'll have this completed. Of course, we do have an internal task, which is called the Roadway Characteristic Inventory, RCI system update that we have to do. Any changes that happen to the roadways, we have to change them in our system. That's an internal task that we'll be doing. So with that, I'll open it up for questions. Then again, this is an informational meeting. We are not going to be presenting any findings that we have. That's going to be presented next Monday at the workshop. And if any of you all want to come and ask questions at that point, we'll be more than happy to share with you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Ruth, do we have any public comment?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, so we'll move along. We'll have Mayor Koretsky and then Vice Mayor Brinkman.
First of all, whoever on TPA or FDOT thought about putting this on the agenda, thank you. I think it's of significant importance. I appreciate, the efforts being done to take a look at this and see what may have changed. And there's certainly positive outcomes from that. But most importantly, enables planning to be done properly. But there is potential unintended consequences that I'm concerned about. not to change your process because you have to be consistent, but I know as the representative for the town and or smaller surrounding municipalities, I would want to know what changes would happen as soon as possible because, you know, many local governments have comprehensive plans that specify what can be built where. And our codes likewise. So as an example, if something moved up in category, it would allow certain types of development to happen there. That may be appropriate. It might not be when you take an existing community. And then likewise, if something was downgraded. So the thing that caught my attention the most in this package, which I read before I came here, was the fact that stuff is moving. And it makes sense. It would move and, you know, we've limited in the town, for example, what bigger impact of items to be near arterial roads, you know, adjacent and whatever. So I just use that as an example. And I can't imagine we're going to really have a change in the town. But if we did, we have to be prepared for it. So enabling us to know sooner than later enables us to then just go and check our comp plan and our code to see if there is unintended consequence. So we decide, so we have the opportunity to start addressing that. That's an ask. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Your point well taken. And in fact, we have sent out the maps to local municipalities. I'm sure your town or the village should have received it by now. And I don't know if you have received any feedback yet. We haven't gone through the whole list, but that's a good point. Things change. It's not going to stay the same. Fortunately, at FDOT, we have a group who do review the complaints. And they do bring to our attention, which is I'm in the systems analytic group, to my attention saying, look, in the comp plan, they're saying they want to do this. Is that consistent with what you all are doing? So yes, we are being proactive about it, and we'll make sure things are taken care of immediately or as soon as possible so that it doesn't left over or fall through the cracks. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you. We'll have Vice Mayor Brinkman and then Commissioner McVoy.
Yes, I think some of my concerns are probably along the same line as to, first of all, where is the workshop taking place? Is it online and in person?
The workshop?
Yes.
Workshop going to be in person
In District 5 in Fort Lauderdale
at
or
the District 4 office in Fort Lauderdale.
commercial?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Kind of the same thing. If the road is upgraded, I don't know what that means to, the county's thoroughfare identification map. There are certain roads in our jurisdiction, we've worked really closely with the county to limit the expansion of those roadways. And I just want to make sure that just because you adopt a functional classification map, that won't spill over into the county's TIM or this county's requirements for dedication or anything like that, that would make a roadway be widened that we don't actually want widened. So I'll touch base with my staff and make sure someone is coming on Monday. But that's my major concern as well.
Thank you. We are trying to turn every rock that's out there to make sure that we are not overstepping or doing anything that contrary to what the local municipalities want. Then again, we may not see every single rock that's out there. That's why we want to have this workshop so that we can get the first-hand feedback from the community. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. And then you're absolutely next. If I could ask that you please share that the workshop information again with TPA staff so they can disseminate it to our board so we can assure that we all have representation on Monday. That would be great. Sorry about that, Commissioner McVoy.
No problem.
In this process, you might do an upgrade or a change of a road independent of whether the urban boundaries have changed.
Correct. Yes.
And in theory, our transportation people in each municipality have already received these maps. Hopefully they've reviewed them. Other than attending the meeting, I assume there are other ways that they could ask questions and suggest, hey, maybe.
Correct. There are several ways they can do it. Either respond back by email. We have provided telephone numbers. They can call me. They can even call our consultant. Tina is very knowledgeable about, what was done, and we are more than happy to walk them through. In fact, we have gotten calls and we have gotten emails from some municipalities, so we are helping walk them through what the thought process was. Yes, sir, we will be.
My follow-up question is, as FDOT makes these considerations.
I'm sorry, can you please turn on your microphone?
Thank you. As a follow-up question, as FDOT makes these evaluations of fund class changes, is there a mechanism at this point for incorporating alternative transportation? Let's say a road is starting to be used a lot by non-vehicle, non-car vehicle usage. Do you have any way of incorporating that and changing does that ever happen?
Right. So these steps that we are going through, it's not going to look into changing the characteristic or what changes that are going to happen or envision in the future. We are going to look into comp plan, making sure that what the comp plan is looking for. The functional classification is not going to get into the alternate modes of transportation. The functional classification more in the terms of traffic volumes, the area that it's serving, those are all going to be part of it. And I think I can see where you're going on this. If there's a need for a transit facility, if we need to provide transit route, is this going to take care of it? No, it's not. This is only going to designate the functional classification of the roadway.
And I guess my comment is, as we see, and the members of TPA and the staff of TPA are certainly paying a lot of attention, witness Brian's earlier presentation, that the mix of things that constitute transportation is changing. You could even imagine a situation, it's probably pretty hypothetical, but a road that used to have a lot of vehicular traffic and was higher on the list for that reason, now is starting to have less vehicular, ideally, and more alternative transportation. And you might say, well, we're gonna bump it down in the classification, and it's not now eligible for federal funding. It would seem, is there a discussion of how do we incorporate these changing modes of transportation into this process?
Very good point. I'm really glad that you brought it up. Let me bring my heavy lifters. They were real into it, so they might be able to answer this. Good.
Good morning. I'm Janelle Lialu with Caltron Group. I'm assisting the department with this effort. So basically, that's a good point, and we've always talked about this. I've been doing this for the last probably 20 years, in 2 iterations past this one. So they're looking into this. You are correct. There's other modes, but as of right now, the functional classification is purely determined on vehicular traffic. They're looking into that. They have been sessions, and they're working into probably in the next 10 years, changing that criteria and looking into other modes of transportation. But this particular time is still based on vehicular traffic. But 100% agree with your sentiment.
Thank you.
All right. I think we're good. Any other questions? All right, so thank you, sir, and we do look forward to hearing about the
Thank you all.
workshop again and the updated map. We're going to move along to partner agency updates. I'd like to kick it off, though, by welcoming and inviting the new Palm-Tran Executive Director, Mr. Ivan Maldrano, to introduce yourself. Please come on up to the podium.
Thank you, members of the board, Director Nilsson, all our partners here in our transportation improvement efforts. I am excited to be here. It's my 4th day on the job, so I'm probably somewhat overloaded with information and statistics and ridership data and new initiatives and that sort of thing. So if I'm not able to talk much about that, it's because I have a lot of information on my head. Just a little introduction about myself. I have been in the transit industry for 17 years. I came from the Health and Human Services background, previously serving as a director of as a division director for the Osceola County Council on Aging, where we serve over 40,000 people with multiple services, over 50 programs in Osceola County. And that's how I got into transit. I came into transit mainly because my knowledge of human services transportation, medical transportation, that sort of thing. And just was a great opportunity for me. I have worked in various transit systems, just came from Omaha, where I have been there for 3 years serving as a deputy executive officer for the Omaha Regional Transit Authority. We serve technically 2 states in the Omaha area. I'm very familiar with Palm Beach County, having worked as Director of Transportation for the Hillsborough Regional Transit Authority, which is actually a peer transit system to PalmTran. And we work very close in different projects and training opportunities and that sort of thing. But I was also an executive director at Star Metro in the past. So I have a very good understanding on working with partners. I look forward to partnering with each and every one of your agencies, your respective municipalities and planning agencies, obviously the TPA, as we work together to build PalmTran as a premier transportation system in the nation to meet and exceed the needs of our community. And I want to make it short. I would love to answer any questions you might have concerning me. And thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you, sir. You have a wonderful team, and our TPA and board are really pleased to welcome you. Just so you know, we're a board of 21 elected officials, including county commission, local municipals, and port commissioner as well. And we're here at your service. As you know, the mission for the TPA is to plan, prioritize, and fund all of the mobility coming through the county. We're federally mandated. Our executive director, I'm sure, will do a great job answering any questions you might have to make sure that we can all collaborate. There's a lot happening in the county, and the more we can all face the same direction together, the better off we'll be. So we really appreciate you coming in today. Anyone
Great.
else?
Awesome. I look forward to that. Yes.
All right, well, welcome. Valerie, anything?
Welcome. Thank you so much for making the time on your 4th day to come and meet with us and say hello. We're really excited to have you and look forward to working with you. It's a really exciting time here in our county. So
The same here.
yeah,
Thank you so
thank you.
much.
Thank you, sir. Did you take the bus here? Did you take the bus to get here? Did you take the bus to get here?
I didn't take the bus today. I'm
That's
a
okay.
transit user.
Yeah.
I'm
We're luckily, we've all become converts. A lot of the folks here on the board were your champions these last few months working with your staff to really get people on the bus. So we're excited to be working with you. Thank you. I was just teasing. So
Thank you.
Thanks. Do we have any other partner agency updates we have a lot of partner agencies here. Everyone's good? And we have no further public comments?
No, Madam Chair.
All right, with that, we'll bring it to our administrative items, which are provided as information only. We have no staff presentation on these items that are within your agenda. Anyone requesting to go through any of these? All right, with that, we'll see you at our next board meeting, which will be on September 19th. And